Budget Committee for Thursday, April 11th at 7:02, please, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As the district clerk, could I call for the election of officers, asking for, is there a nomination for chair? Yes, Mary?
I nominate Annie Collier for Budget Committee Chair.
Yes, Cheryl?
I nominate Cheryl Gannon for Budget Committee Chair.
I'll nominate Jim Doggett for Budget Committee Chair.
Okay. Discussion for your nomination?
Mary? So I speak on her behalf. Okay. Having served on the board with Annie as chair for the last 2 fiscal budget cycles, I believe that she has demonstrated great integrity and collaboration and communication skills with the superintendent and the administration, and has done a great job putting forth needs-based budgets that were supported last year and came very close to being supported this year. I feel very strongly that if we did not have the 2 employment contracts up for bids, that we would have had the budget pass as well this year. And I just feel that we are in a good place to continue that momentum, and I'd like to see it carry forward.
Is there a second on that nomination?
Do we need seconds?
No.
How does it work when we take so many at once?
I
But
always...
we need a second, I'll second it. I'll second all 3 of them.
Okay. There we go.
There's Larry putting a second hand on.
Because I believe we do them one at a time, right?
I think however you want to handle it, you're in charge.
Well, I'm just going by the board meeting and how we do it at the board meeting, so then we take a vote.
Yep.
So is there a vote on the nomination of Annie Collier by Mary Sear for chair?
Were we voting?
Do we have any more
between all-
discussion?
Any more discussion? Was there more discussion?
Question first. Aren't we going to go through all 3 of them first so that we can, how do I want to put it? I think we should go through all 3 to hear their talk,
Okay.
and then we
think
can
that
vote.
would be good.
Yeah, because
That's a
it's
good
different at the board meeting where it seems
Yeah.
like we do one at a time.
Yeah, there's,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay, we'll do, all right, so the next nomination was Cheryl, sorry.
I have something prepared. Good evening, board members. I am seeking your support for Budget Committee Chairperson for the 2020-2021 budget. For those who are new to the committee, my family and I have lived in Kingston for 32 years. I have a longstanding interest and history of involvement and experience serving and leading various school district committees and boards. I've been a member of the Budget Committee for 8 years and was chair in 2015-16 and was on the school board for 1 year. Professionally, I work on a daily basis with teams of educators, therapists, and parents of children with special needs in school districts across the state. I believe that I will be an effective Budget Committee chair because of my many years of experience. I've developed an ability to work collaboratively with people, lead groups, and work with people to gather information, assess problems, develop policies, and come up with solutions that will result in productive outcomes. I will bring to the chairmanship a set of beliefs and a capacity to work hard. Another of my volunteer jobs that I did for nearly 10 years was videotaping school board meetings for public broadcast. I did that because of my deep conviction that all stakeholders need to have sufficient and accurate information in order to make informed decisions. Another belief I hold is that the strength of any committee is in recognizing and capitalizing on the strengths of each individual member. It's the responsibility of the chair to adhere to a process that facilitates opportunities for all members to contribute, debate, and come to consensus in order to meet the responsibilities and objectives. Last night, the superintendent gave a second proposal to reorganize the structure of facilities where the elementary and middle school students will be educated. He requested that the school board make a decision about this proposal by June. This means that the proposed budget we will be working on will potentially include huge changes in appropriations, so this committee has a lot of work to do. This also will likely be a source of considerable debate that will be filled with emotion. That makes it even more imperative that this committee demand that proposals have evidence to support the expenditures and that they will align with the goals of the school district. Another issue we face is working with a business administrator who will be new to the district. It will be critical for us to have an effective working relationship with this person, to be able to get the information we need to do our job. Another reason I'm asking for your support stems from attitudes and practices I've seen growing on this committee while under the leadership of the previous chair, who has held the position for the past 3 years. While this is not the manner in which I wish to seek your support, I feel it is imperative that actions be recognized so they can be addressed and remediated. A chair should not be motivated by personal desires to include things in a budget that she likes. And she should not create rules on the spot when things are said that she doesn't agree with. A chair should lead an orderly process to empower the members to work cooperatively and treat everyone with respect, even when they may not agree with her. One thing that happened this year was the use of email for conducting official business. This should be limited to administrative issues, such as sending out agendas or confirming meeting times. It should not be used to provide or to present substantive information to the committee, and then restrict discussions because it violates the law that cannot respond to emails. The Right to Know statute dictates that discussions must take place only after having been properly noticed and open to the public. That being the case, the information to be discussed should also be presented in that venue. If a recommendation is made by email and members are asked to take action to approve, that is a clear violation of the statute. Yet this is what happened this past budget year. Just prior to the deliberative session, a request was made to approve some slides that were going into the presentation. Since it had not been discussed in public, this created the need for an emergency meeting so the committee could discuss and take a vote on the issue. And even after the committee had voted, just minutes before the public session, we were asked to approve another change. I feel this kind of disregard for the will of the committee should not be tolerated. I ask for your support because I feel I will be a good leader for this committee. I will uphold a process that facilitates the work of the committee in an efficient and equitable manner. I'll treat everyone with respect and require that they be respectful to one another as well. I will work to ensure that the committee abides by all statutes and be mindful that they are working for all taxpayers of the district. Thank you.
The reason I'm throwing my hat in the ring is this is my 30th year as an elected official at Sanborn Regional, between the school board and the budget committee. I chaired the school board several times. I've never chaired this committee. However, I firmly believe that, first of all, you need to change chairs on a regular basis so that people learn the different aspects of the role, especially as chair. However, a chair is nothing more than the person who runs the meeting. Sets the agenda, but there have been, and in all 6 years that I've been on here, the chair has been in ex parte meetings with the superintendent and other administrators. And quite honestly, that happens when you have somebody that's in the chair again and again and again. I'm not a subpar or I have a speech impediment for the new people. I can't get the word out. But I'm not a second-class board member, and the chair is not a super board member. We need, by changing the chair on a regular basis, we make sure that that does not happen. That's simply, I'm capable of doing the work, I'm willing to do the work.
Yeah, I have a couple of things to say, if I may. I believe that the role of chair is to be a facilitator, to run meetings, to contribute to the efficient inflow of information to us, and to the outflow of information to our communities. In my term of service, I've shown respect and honor for all members and their contributions, my willingness to work hard, to do research and to dig into information, my ability to present facts and opinions cogently and succinctly, and that I encourage collaborative interactions at meetings for the best outcomes of all members of the district. I seek to understand the needs of the district and its vision for moving into excellence, balanced with the ability of the taxpayers to pay the tab. That philosophy puts me in a centrist position to continue as committee chair. During my tenure, we've implemented several practices that were suggested in the past but never implemented. 3 years ago, we began tours of facilities, direct interface with department heads as needed, better use of a Q&A system to get detailed information on budget items, and video coverage for public access of our meetings. A big change that I initiated was improvement in the efficiency of our budget process, and I created additional time for developing our budget proposal. In the past, the committee would get a budget request from the superintendent in mid-November, just in time for the holiday rush. Now we get the new budget request earlier in November, and then we submit questions and give the administrators time to prepare answers for us. That means we can better focus on the budget proposal for the next fiscal year. In the past 2 years, I've led to achieve more transparency in our budget with line item detail, a process for scheduling meetings with administrators to meet with and answer budget committee questions, a budget timeline worked out cooperatively with the school board and administration. I began the introduction of efficient public hearing and deliberative presentation of 15 minutes, perhaps a few minutes more, with pass-outs of addendums as determined by the Budget Committee. Now, going forward, I recommend that we continue to make all decisions publicly per the right to know. I suggest that new information, not decisions, continue to be distributed via email and posted on the team drive, things like attorney rulings, budget data, and the like. I propose we continue to employ an efficient flow to prevent duplications and inefficient use of administrator time. I recommend continuation of budget cooperation wherever possible, including the joint school board meetings that we've started with the administration to try to resolve any differences for the good of the district. And I believe the administration wants to continue clear notation of budget requests, and I appreciate that transparency. Each one of us is going to be contributing over the coming year so that our committee can work together cooperatively for the highest and best for our district and the communities we represent. If you'll give me your vote as chair, I plan to facilitate that cooperation. Thank you.
Yes, Larry.
Just one point that I'd like to make so that we all understand it. I'm sorry, I'm dry. The right to know law says that we can use the email. We do send information out. It does not ask for answers back. Email is the means of communication today. And if we don't use the modern communication so that we can keep our meetings moving, we're going to be here till midnight or later every time we have a meeting. And that has happened in the past. I would like to state again, emails are a thing that we need to use on a daily basis, not to answer back, but for information to be given to you, to be considered at the next meeting. And I'd also like to make a motion that the ballots be done in secret.
They can't.
You can't?
No, we had a meeting with Right to Know last year. We used to do them in secret.
Okay.
And it was found that that's a violation of Right to Know. We have to have a public record of the vote. So thank you, but we were found that we'd been doing it for 3 years and we were violating Right to Know. So,
Well, as I've already said numerous times, it's too easy to violate.
yeah.
Any other discussion? Yes, Jim.
Is the interpretation of the right to know a point of discussion for this moment, or is that something that we should wait till after the new chair or the chair and the vice chair are elected? Because that is something that I want to touch base on how it's dealt with, because I totally agree with the information of exchange on emails.
Right.
I want to end it right there because I don't want to waste any more time prior to selecting our chairs.
Just in response to that, everybody has a school district issued computer. There is a program called Team Drive where all of that information is stored. Sending out the information as an attachment to an email is not how I honestly think it should be done. An email may come out every Monday that says, check your Team Drive, this has been added, this has been added, this has been added. But when you start getting all of this information in through email, you now have it in 2 different places because it's on the Team Drive. And I think that we should be looking at the Team Drive, and that prevents anybody from coming back and saying, on page 3, it's not coming up right. The minute you start any discussion about what you got in the email, and you hit reply all, then you're come into conflict with right to know.
Phyllis?
Yes.
If I could just say that in the past, what the Budget Committee members have done is to decide how they want information. And so some Budget Committee members wanted email and some wanted the Team Drive, so we did both last year. However, we as a Budget Committee decide this year that we want to get information is the way it should be done. It's up to us to determine how our committee should be run. As far as right to know goes, we do have, did you see the thing on the Team Drive about kind of the little diagram of, and I think having a conversation about it would be great, but I'd suggest that maybe we add that to the agenda for a little bit later, if that's okay.
I think that should be done that way.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, so we're ready to vote. All those in favor of Annie Collier as chair? All in favor? 3, 4, 5. All those in favor of Cheryl Gannon as chair? All in favor? Okay, and all those in favor of Jim Doggett as chair?
I do my vote to Cheryl.
Okay, so congratulations, Chair
Thank you.
Collier.
Thank you, folks, and let's have a great year. The first thing on our agenda after that was approval of minutes. And I actually noticed today that we hadn't approved either the minutes of the 4th or the 6th. So we have the 4th and the 6th.
I didn't go back.
The 4th was the meeting that we had where we discussed the presentation and found out that we weren't supposed to change anything from the public hearing, which was actually not accurate, but we acted on that basis and voted to leave it exactly the way it was. The 6th was that emergency meeting that Cheryl had mentioned, where at the deliberative session, the attorney had said that it was fine for us to have a meeting to determine on some things. And at that meeting, we voted whether to change, to put in the additional information now that we had new information that it was okay to change it from the public hearing or not, and voted that we just leave it the way it was. And the school board, because it was their responsibility to give us the impact, the estimated tax impact, they then took over doing the slides. Larry presented those for, when the budget committee said, no, we don't want to do them, we'll let the school board do it. So then the school board did it. So that was what those 2 meetings were about. Also, we did another vote.
Have written minutes of that meeting?
Of which one?
The 6th, that's the one I didn't see. I printed the ones for the 4th.
The 6th, yeah, those were distributed, actually. If you want to defer, doing it, I mean, we can do this 1 of 2 ways. One is I could read them to you. And the second is that we could defer and table it until our next meeting. What would you like to do?
I suggest we defer. I don't know if we need to make a motion and vote on it.
I have not seen it. Were they sent out in an email?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you had responded to them back when I had first done them.
February 6th?
Yes, from the deliberative session. I'm happy to, whatever you want to do. Do you want to
I
defer
think
them?
we should
or-
defer. Would be
Okay,
better.
I have not looked at the ones for the 6th.
Right.
I looked at and printed and
okay. Do you want
authorized
to,
the 4th.
then you want to handle the ones from the 4th?
I'm comfortable with that.
I'll
Okay.
move to approve the minutes of February 4th.
Second.
Second.
Have you, Judy? Let me introduce Judy Schaefer to you. She's our recording secretary.
Yes.
Yay! Just so you guys know, last year we rotated doing the recording secretary because, oh, you know what? We didn't elect our other officers.
Oh, yeah.
My bad. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We need to elect our vice chair. Does anybody have a nomination for vice chair? Yes,
Cheryl again?
okay,
I'll nominate Cheryl again.
okay.
Second.
Okay, so we have one nominee, and Cheryl. I wanted to ask Maura if she would do it as a new person, because she's from Kingston, a business owner, and a mom with kids in the district, which most of us don't have. So I know Jim does, but Jim is from Newton, so that would be kind of two Newton people. So I was thinking Maura would be a good person. So, I mean, I'm happy with either one. Can we have a second? Can we have a second for Maura?
Sure.
Okay. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah.
I know you're stunned.
I'm kind of welcome. I'm happy to do whatever I can. Obviously, I'm learning as we go. Yeah, I think you all kind of heard my history of I'm a business owner. I have young kids in the school. I'm new to all this, but I think I've learned more in the last few weeks about the school than I have in the last few years. I'm happy to serve in whatever way I can.
Cheryl, do you have anything to say?
Well, I think I said quite a bit. Certainly, you know, I have the interest of the school district, and the budget committee is a very high priority for me. So I will do whatever I can to make it run smoothly and make sure that we all work cooperatively.
Anybody else? Okay, so all in favor of Cheryl as vice chair, please. Okay, that would be 4. And all in favor of Maura? So that's 4-4. So what that means is that we need to continue voting until we have elected vice chair. So if we could do it, are there any further nominations or any further comments? Yes.
Oh, nothing against you, Mara. However, this is your first year. I honestly would never have vice chaired any committee in my first year, only because if the chair isn't here and you have to move into that seat, you end up losing the learning ability that you had as a full participating member. The chair.
Right.
I vote for Cheryl because personally, Cheryl knows what happens and what to do
Right.
if she has to move in there. That's my reason for voting for Cheryl. I think she's quite capable. I wouldn't want you to end up losing, in schools they call it seat time. You know, time when you're
Carnegie credits.
yeah. Especially since we have a very condensed
Right.
Timeline.
this year.
Yes, Larry?
I would like to nominate Sandra if I can. Now, I'm the school board, so I'm not sure if I have the right to do
You do, you're a full voting member.
All right, I would like to nominate Sandra. She's been here a while, she's very independent, and let her sit over there with you.
I would love to accept the nomination, but I will be resigning July 15th. July 18th, I am moving to Myanmar to work in administration in an international school. And my husband will be a science teacher at the same international school.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we're going to miss you very much.
Yes, we are.
And we're also going to need another Kingston person for the Kingston people to select.
Mary is the only other one.
No, Mary's at large.
She's still at Kingston.
She's Kingston, yeah.
Kingston or Newton, she can go into either spot.
Yeah. Oh, well. You'd have no reason to,
Jump
yeah.
one lane to the other?
No.
No.
Mary's very balanced and has the interests of everybody at heart and really acts very respectfully towards everyone. I think she'd be excellent also.
Are
I
we
think you would
talking about
too.
replacing Sandy as a board member, or did?
No. We should be
But
talking
we're talking
about the vice chair position.
Okay. I think we have two very good, qualified, well-rounded, balanced candidates, both of whom are from Kingston. I think that's a great place to start.
Okay? Okay,
I think that's good.
okay, so that's, did you have something you wanted to say?
Do you want to decline?
I thought, I'm not.
I think, you know what,
I thought you had
I
your hand up.
understand what Jim is saying, and I, being new to this, I don't quite know how all this works. I think that the flip side to it is, because I don't know how it works, I don't know who the players are, I don't know what's going on. I feel like I'm very independent in my thinking and how I look at things, and I don't think that I sway one way or the other. I completely respect what you're saying, and you're bringing up a very great point. As I look at the schedule, our very first meeting, I'm going to be in Morocco, so I'm not going to be here. So I didn't even think of it from that aspect. So I very much understand what you're saying, and I guess the other flip side of it is I'm a set of fresh eyes, but I guess that's why I kind of I shy away from the thought of even having to vote on something like this, because I guess you guys know better than I do, but I don't. At the same time, I don't.
What's involved? or what the demands would be.
I'm just a fresh set of eyes. So
I could say that in my various roles that I've played over the years, including when I was in high school and my high school history teacher had to be gone from school for 2 weeks because she had appendicitis. And she asked me to teach her high school history class for her. And
Those are the days.
I know, but I worked really, really hard preparing for it and everything. And I learned so much by being in a position I was totally not prepared for. I learned that the learning curve can be accelerated when you're in a position of leadership that maybe, you weren't quite maybe ready for. By the way, on the test, I got a 99. She gave me a -1 for not closing my O on of. She just wouldn't quite give me the 100, but I did learn the stuff. So I'm not sure that I agree with, yeah.
Could we maybe say what the duties of the vice chair are? I don't know.
Very, very simple. It's to assume
Yeah.
the chair,
Exactly.
should the chair be unable to attend a meeting or become
Or conduct a meeting.
incapacitated or move to Myanmar.
I would really appreciate your youth and having children in the schools, and I will miss that I will not get to experience having that input on the committee.
I mean, I know both of you about equally well. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I just look at, you're going to get your first budget book. It's about yay thick. And you're going to be going, oh my God. Whereas quite honestly, Cheryl's going to open it. Cheryl and I have worked on school stuff for so long. She's going to open and go, okay, yep. I'd rather, quite honestly, I would love if you needed a mentor to be your mentor during the process.
Okay, So can we have a vote, please? All those who would like Cheryl as vice chair, please raise your hands. And all those who want Maura? Okay, so we're still at 4-4. We're still at 4-4. Yes,
I will withdraw.
okay. Okay, then Maura, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. One more office that we have had on occasion and haven't had in a couple of years is corresponding secretary. Does anyone think that that would be a good one to have? I would suggest that a corresponding secretary would be the one to write did you know articles for the paper and for the school newsletters.
I think that would be a wise move because of what we've got coming down the road. And I also think Cheryl would be the ideal person for that job.
I agree with you.
Sorry, Cheryl. I'll put you back to work.
I agree with you. I'll second that.
Well, I kind of had the idea when I requested that the subcommittee guidelines be reviewed, because in the guidelines that we've been using, we did not have that position. So I don't know if we want to include that in the guidelines or make the decision now, because our guidelines say that we have a secretary that will record minutes, but it doesn't have anything about a corresponding secretary.
And yet we did have one last year for a while. So, yeah.
May I ask?
Yes,
other-
Sandy was.
Wrote articles for the newspaper?
No, she was corresponding secretary.
May I
What did
ask?
that corresponding secretary do?
I'm sorry, yeah.
Well, you're making a statement that I don't think we ever, did we have a corresponding secretary who, you just said the duties would be to write articles for the newspaper?
I suggested those as duties. I did not, that is not in our guidelines what they would be, nor are our guidelines rules. You know, they're guidelines. So, yeah, we can, I know that that's later on the agenda to look at as far as the guidelines. So if we could defer discussion of the guidelines for now, that would be
But
great.
Sandy was acting as secretary when the paid secretary was not here.
No,
At the very beginning of the year, last year.
I'm sorry?
That was at the beginning of the year last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the fall, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think I was just the acting secretary. We had, right?
Yes, but then you resigned.
Yes, I did. That's
Yeah.
correct. Rightfully so.
We have not had
I'd
a
like to
corresponding secretary.
make a motion that we defer consideration of a recording secretary until such time that we have an opportunity to reassess what the guidelines are and have a chance to define the role that this position would entail. We can have, we've learned from the school board, we can have an organizational meeting at any time.
That's right.
So we can bring that up at a subsequent meeting after we've defined the role and decided whether or not we want to adopt that kind of a position.
The
that a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll withdraw my motion.
Excuse
That's
me?
what I meant,
Excuse
corresponding.
me? I'm sorry, yes?
I'll withdraw my motion and we can sit here and proceed with Mary's. I think
Okay.
that's a wise idea to do it that way.
Okay, so if that's okay with everybody, that we'll have the review of guidelines and decide at a later time if we want corresponding secretary? Is that okay?
Yes.
Thank you, Larry. Did you have a second?
No, I don't think so.
We're all kind of like
Okay,
jumping the gun.
okay. So at this point, we are done with that and we're looking at our minutes of February 6th. February 4th or February 6th?
It's
February
February 4th.
4th.
We
February
were going to
4th.
put off
Okay.
the 6th until.
Okay, February 4th. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
There's actually one already on the table.
Is there? Okay, we kind
Yeah.
of got out of order, so I lost track.
We did.
And a second.
Okay, so is there any discussion? You guys are kind of
The second was
You know.
Sandy.
stepping aside for this one, unless you watch the video and you want to weigh in.
I did watch the video.
If I may, just point of reference for the new people, you do not have to abstain on anything, especially minutes, unless you believe there is something substantively incorrect in the body of the minutes. So if you miss a meeting, like you're going to be in Morocco, when you come back, you read the minutes and go, yeah, that sounds like what happened at the meeting. You can still vote.
Okay.
Okay, so right now, are there any discussion about them? Anybody have any changes they want to make to the minutes? Okay, there being none, can we vote to approve them?
Is this all in favor?
Yeah, all in
Okay.
favor, yep. And that would be unanimous, Judy, thank you. Okay, so we're done with that part. What's next? Review and approval of the budget calendar.
Madam Chair, before we get too far into it,
Yes,
the committee has not voted to appoint the lovely lady sitting down here as our recording secretary. Correct.
does the committee need to do that? It was a
Yes.
hire by the administration. The paperwork's
Oh,
all done.
okay.
Yeah. it-
Well, we should explain the process. That
Okay.
should be somehow in
Do you
the
want
minutes.
to share?
Everybody received copies of the applications.
No.
No, only if you ask to be involved in the process of
Right.
selecting
Okay.
the candidate for the secretary.
In that case, I apologize.
That's all right.
Because quite honestly, everybody should receive copies of the applications. And then there was an email that was supposed to go out saying, you know, so many people looked at the applications, these were the ones that they thought, or this was the one that we thought was the best choice. And then that recommendation should have come from the entire board to administration to hire.
I appreciate that that's how you would have set up the procedure. However, the procedure that was set up was a little different than that. What it was I asked if there would be 3 people who would volunteer to look at the applications and to determine who it would be. And that was Mary, Jim, and myself. Cheryl also came forward afterwards, but we already had 3 at that point. We met, we went over the applications, and quite independently, each one of us focused in on Judy Schaefer as the best candidate. And then we let the business office know how that was, what the decision was, and she was then hired, completed her paperwork with Phyllis, and she's been hired, and we're happy to have her. So, had it been done in a different way, as you've suggested, and you were a part of it, so I'm surprised you didn't know. But, no, excuse me, just a second. Had it been done in a different way, I think we probably would have come up with the same conclusion. Judy was very, very outstanding as a candidate to be our recording secretary. Yes, you had something else?
Yes, if it had been done the slightly different way that I had suggested, I believe that we would have been completely in compliance with the right to know, and I would not be feeling guilty. She seems like a very capable person, and yes, she is the choice. However, there was no vote to recommend by this board, and quite honestly, there should have been. We need to keep things above board and transparent, and that is part of that is.
Would you like to make a motion that we vote to recommend so that you feel comfortable?
Well, I think the board needs to.
Okay. Is that your motion?
Yes, I would.
Okay, can we have a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion?
I,
Yes? Sandy?
I just want to say, I'm so glad that y'all could do this for the committee, on behalf of the committee, because I was not available. I was trying to sell my house last week in a matter of 2 days, and I was not available to help with this, and I was very grateful that the 3 of you were, and I had full confidence that you all would make a good selection for us, because you knew exactly what we needed. So thank you for that.
Yes, Mary?
I will say that at least last year, we had a difficult time attracting any interest from candidates. So to get a plethora of resumes it was amazing. And so in the past, whatever process, if we got one applicant, it was just done.
Yes.
So this is, in my experience, in the 2 years that I've been on this committee, this was the first time that we've had to actually make a selection. So that's why I honestly didn't question it. I was like, oh my gosh, and here they are, and Judy was, leaps and bounds ahead of the other candidates as far as her availability, her experience, her everything. Her ability to write a cover letter.
It's a skill these days.
Her ability and willingness
Yeah.
to submit a cover letter. I
We
mean,
had 12 applicants.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
so it was really
Since we
quite-
had 0
quite
last
amazing.
year.
we couldn't
You'd have
retain,
to see the applicants in order to qualify that we had 12 applicants.
We also, just so that you're aware, I did speak with Phyllis and with the HR people and with the superintendent about the process and followed the process as was suggested by the school administration. So, so we have a motion to accept?
we're discussing.
We're discussing?
Yeah.
Is there any
The
further
main
discussion?
reason that I believe that there needs to be a vote is so that nobody can ever come back and question how she ended up in that position. We are an autonomous board. We are separate from the school board. We are separate from the superintendent. However, they control the purse strings.
That's right.
So properly, to me, the process is we would nominate, just like happens at school board, there's a nomination, there's an election, and then the position is done.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Yes.
I would like to recommend, and it's not a motion, but going forward, if we are going to reassess the,
Guidelines.
the
Corresponding secretary.
well, not just the
Guidelines.
position,
The
but the
guidelines.
guidelines, thank you.
Guidelines, yeah.
That we include something in there, because likely the only opportunity we will have to hire somebody or to extend an offer of employment to somebody in this small group. We survived all of last year with people that would show up for one meeting and never come back. And so we all wound up doing it. So maybe if we include that in the updated guidelines, that would help to address this going forward.
Oh, you mean specifically about selecting another candidate if she were to?
Well, after we're all long and gone,
Yeah,
and the next
right.
committee comes and looks at the guidelines, and they can decide how they want to proceed, or at least they'll have something documented
Got it.
as a reference. But again, this was the first time in my 2 years where we've actually had more than one candidate. In meetings past, people would just show up. And it was the lone, person who expressed interest. And so we were like, come on in.
Actually, it wasn't necessarily people that expressed interest. It was people the superintendent could. Some years we had different principal secretaries that would sort of take it. I know we had the principal secretary from the high school one year. She came like 3 times in a row, and then I think we drove her insane. Because the next time we got the middle school. But it was always
Rotating.
somebody
that was already in the district.
And the budget committee was never involved in the decision-making process. That was a
Right.
surprise that,
Yeah.
it was always done by the administration. So, can we call the vote here? All in favor of approving recommendation of Ms. Judith Schaefer as our recording secretary? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to the budget committee calendar. This is a calendar which is basically the same as we have done in the past couple of years. And if you would take a look at it, see what works or doesn't work, you will see that it starts with submitting any questions that you might have. I'd like to say that we have asked a lot of questions. There didn't used to be a lot of transparency about budgets and things like that. So over the last couple of years, we asked a lot of questions, which took a lot of time with the administration to answer, but we now have them all in the team drive, all the Q&A. So unless there's something that's really outstanding, that's something new that you want to dig into, then there probably aren't a lot of questions that are still remaining. However, if anybody has any, then get them in by September 24th so that the administration has time to answer them. Does that work for everybody? Yes.
wondering if we might ask the past board members if they could hand over, if they still have their budget books to the new committee members, if they wanted to take a look at that.
Or better yet, get you your own.
Yeah.
I'm happy to give you mine, so long as I get it back, but you might want it in your
I was just
own
gonna say,
in the
that's a
future.
lot of printing.
Yeah,
I
I
think
may
there
know
might
where
be
there's
some
one
up in the
copy.
office anyway.
really?
I think so.
That might be worth looking into.
What
Yeah.
did you say?
There might be some up in the office.
Up in superintendent's office?
It is
We can
nice to
make a
have
call
paper as
tomorrow and
well
find
as the pivot table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I donated the notebook to see.
Good idea, Cheryl.
If I might suggest for the new members, if you want to go through and look at the past questions, remember that those questions were based on a specific budget at the time, and don't
Try and coordinate.
never feel guilty if you go look at it and go, well, gee, that was interesting in that year, but how does it relate to this year? Yeah, so,
So
I mean,
should I be looking at this book compared to the budget that we're going to be getting, or are you
Right.
just saying to look at? And we don't have the new budget yet. We won't have that until the fall. Is that correct?
Yeah, we
So-
won't have it till
So there's
November
nothing
6th.
really to do
No.
tomorrow.
No.
right, but that's why Annie's idea is good about getting copies of what we already have for this year
So I can like
into your
familiarize
hands,
myself.
so you can go through, familiarize yourself, and then you might point out something. I won't tell you, I won't spoil the surprise of, you can learn, I have certain target areas that I look at.
We all do.
Is there a
Easter
monster at the
egg.
end of the book?
You might go through the book and go, okay, this makes sense, and this sort of makes sense, but I have a question here. Ask the question.
Right.
Yes.
There are no stupid questions. There are occasionally bad answers.
Yes, Mary?
It's my understanding, and I can't pinpoint exactly where I saw it, but the actual budget is online.
Yes, it is.
And yeah, I can't tell you which, we
But
might
is
have it in
online in
our,
the same format that we got it.
right. So, I mean, that's one you can go in and mess around there, you can drill down, you can take a look. And if you want to borrow my paper copy, I will be happy to dust it off and loan it to either one of
It
you.
goes for you guys if you need one.
One thing that you'll see is
I'll
it's
contact
got
the
several
superintendent.
years of
Yes.
history and you can see kind of the different trends and different things. And sometimes with our business administrator that we got a couple of years ago, there were some shifts in some of the accounting. And so you can see things that are zeroed out and, then new line items and stuff like that. So just getting familiar with kind of some of that stuff that's going on. We now have a new business administrator who'll be coming again. Ms. Croteau has submitted her resignation effective June 30th, and she is in and out of the office, but a lot out right now. And right now, we have an interim person, and hopefully we're going to be hiring as a district, hiring a new business administrator shortly, and be able to get acquainted with him or her and whatever system that they're going to be using. So that'll be the purpose on October 10th, is to find out what differences they're making and get answers to those questions that might come up as you look at the old budgets. And then I put on here, and I've been over this with the administrator, with Larry as the school board representative, and with the current, and with the superintendent to kind of go through and to see if it works, but we want to make sure it works for us because it's our budget cycle. So the 24th of October is a meeting, just kind of a space holder for a meeting if it's required. Then November 6th would be the meeting where the superintendent will give us his request. Now, sometimes they call that the superintendent's budget proposal or the superintendent's budget. The law says that we make the budget, and recommend it. We put it together. It doesn't say that he does. He makes a request of various budgets and he does a lot of work to get it ready for us. But then we take it and we massage it. The school board tells us, what their recommendation is. And then we dig in and figure out what ours is. We go back to the school board and say, this is where we're at. and see if we have differences, see if we can't iron those out. And either we can or we can't, and then we present our budget to the public at the public hearing in January. Prior to that, we'll work together to figure out the presentation so that we do it, and you'll authorize whatever you want, or you keep, control of every slide. However, we as a board decide to do it. And then after the public hearing, we meet the purpose of the public hearing is to get input from the public on what they think about our budget. And then we decide whether we want to make any changes or not, and after listening to them, and then we finalize our presentation for the deliberative session. So that's kind of the process. Yeah, Cheryl.
I would like to propose, I don't know if I need to make a motion, or just propose that 2 years ago, we had divided the budget into, I think we had 3 sections. I found last year to have just 1 week to look through that budget, and it was a new format, that it was a lot to look through. And I really didn't feel like I had as good a handle on it as I had the year before. So I was wondering if we might be able to do targeted certain sections for November 13th and make our questions for that date to be in, and then maybe give another week and say, if you have questions on this other targeted portion of the budget, those questions need to be in by November 20th, and then have the meeting on the 27th, which would respond
That wouldn't
to.
that wouldn't be a meeting. That's the night before Thanksgiving. So that would be just when we would get our answers in writing.
Deadline.
Just to be
Okay.
clear.
So
The meeting would be on the 4th.
So when would the meeting be that they respond to our questions?
We'll get the responses in writing on the 27th, and then a meeting on the 4th to start talking about them.
So is that when the superintendent would be there to present the answers to the questions?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a joint with the school board?
No.
No.
Okay,
Oh,
so,
no, I'm sorry, the 5th. I'm sorry.
Oh.
The 4th is the school board votes on their budget recommendation. I'm sorry. And the 5th is where we meet to go over it with the superintendent, any relevant administrators, and going over the questions, the answers to
they
questions.
have between November 13th and December 5th to answer our questions.
Actually not. They have between November 6th and Wednesday, November 27th to answer our questions. We have between November 27th and December 5th to mull over those answers and then to meet together to go over them and to talk about them with the administration.
I would still like to propose that we have 2 dates and that we do half the budget. So we have a week to look at half the budget, submit questions, and then another week to look at the other half and submit questions. So they all need to be in by the 27th.
Okay?
And put a date in there of November 20th or 21st or whatever.
Okay, so.
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
One
the
question
Wednesday.
that I'd have for clarification is that, would you want to meet to go over those, or just submit them in
No,
writing?
just submit them so that we have, and everybody would be doing the same, like we do like all the schools.
Targeted chunks of.
Yes.
Right. So that we could.
Facilities.
Yeah, because I
and-
mean,
yeah.
literally, according to this, we have 7 days to review and come up with any questions that we
Yes.
have on the
That's what I'm
budgets,
saying.
period.
It's a lot.
And then administration gets,
2 weeks.
they get 2 weeks to answer. They know the budget.
Yeah,
I mean,
Exactly.
quite honestly, I will make the same request I make every year, and that is, we need to have the budget prior to the joint meeting, so that we do not walk in.
Not having looked at it.
well, last year they did not really take questions, remember, it was only
Well, I was
clarifying
just gonna say,
questions, so.
And we need to have more time to ask questions. Last year's process was so condensed that, I mean, it was not good.
I agree.
You know, if we don't get the budget until the presentation, we're sitting there and you've got a 3-inch thick binder, looking at pages while stuff's being shown on the screen, trying to formulate questions. Well, you've got 7 days to ask all your questions about the entire budget. Might take me 3 days to even have time to go through the budget, formulate the questions. We need to have more than one cycle because the answer may precipitate a new question.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you guys want and I don't think we're going to get the budget book before the 6th. Just so, I mean, I've asked and asked and asked.
Yeah, we ask every year.
I've asked and asked and asked, and it is a rush for them to get it done by the 6th. They are talking to all their administrators. They start talking in August, and, you know, we're putting it together, and, you know, to have it ready is pretty amazing on the 6th. It used to be not till like the 13th or the 20th of November. You know, we really pushed to get it sooner. Yes, Larry?
I agree with Jim over here. I don't see any reason why we can't, the one that we have on the 13th, is there any reason why we can't move that to the 20th? Give ourselves 2 weeks. I agree with Jim. Last year that was my first year, and that was a nightmare.
Okay, so you're proposing that we put them all in by the 20th,
Right.
At least.
okay? And you're proposing that we do it in 2 chunks.
We could do it
Because then
that
we
way.
could
That'd be
submit
1
the
week for
first
each.
half, the first group of questions, so this administration could start answering those while we're working the next week on our next half. So it would give them a little bit more time too to.
At least in theory, if we, anytime after the 6th, if we submit a question, and it's not just, you know, email all your questions in on one sheet. As you come up with questions, you can email those.
I think they would appreciate that too, Jim.
I was just
Okay,
going to
so
say,
let me tell you the process that we've used in the last couple of years, and I think when you were chair as well, is that you submit your questions to the chair, who then collates them and puts them together so that if there are 15 questions, or no, there won't be 15, but say there are 8 questions on one particular aspect of the budget, they're all put together so that the administration has it together, and that way the idea is to be more efficient for them. So the chair has taken on putting those together into one question. And so if everybody gets in, say we select all the hardest part might be the schools, given what's possible this year.
Yes.
So maybe we take technology, athletics,
Facilities.
everything but the schools by the 13th. And if you get those to me, then I can put those together, get them to the administration, and then by the 20th, you go through and submit all your questions on the schools, then I can put those together. And the hard part might be getting the written responses from them by the 27th, before Thanksgiving. They might have to do it so that they're giving them to us maybe on the 4th, the day that the school board meets. And I would think the school board's going to want their answers in order to forward a budget recommendation to us. So they might get them on the 4th, and we might get them on the 4th, and we might just have a day before we then get together with the superintendent to go over them.
If I recall, when we got the responses
During the meeting.
On the
during the
screen.
meeting. We
Yeah.
did not get them beforehand. In fact, we were not even given the slideshow because the superintendent didn't want us looking down there and looking, he wanted us to focus on
is true.
the presentation. So we did not get them before that presentation anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So does that work for you? I'm sorry.
Yes, I would much rather have it broken down. It's just
You'd much rather have, I'm sorry.
broken down into 2 sections.
Okay.
It's just a
Jim?
humongous amount of information.
Yeah, I'm all for breaking it up into different categories because we all know there's quite a show coming up with the school reconfiguration and everything else that's going on. Is there a chance that we could put the proposed budget in the team drive? And then we go through it
Yeah, we do.
and put in our own comments underneath it so that we don't have to.
Constitutes a
so
meeting.
She has something that's going on? No? It's
It would work in,
constitutes
it
a
would
meeting?
work in business really well,
It-
but
because I was
business
gonna
isn't
say
subject to
that's-
right to know.
Exactly. That's a
That's a
complete
great idea, though.
contravention of the right to
It
know
is.
law.
Sticky wicket.
Can't we
that gets us
comment to
every
each
It's
other?
frustrating. It's frustrating.
We're
Welcome
not-
to our world.
We're not it wouldn't be that
Oh, yeah, you'd be
I'm
commuting to
saying.
everybody.
Yes, you would, because someone would answer back.
And it's not only just us, it's a whole
Or put a
team.
question mark.
Yep, that's all you have to
Yeah.
do.
All right, so.
Constitutes a
That
quorum,
stinks.
it's a meeting,
It
and you
does.
That
can't
whole
do
thing,
that.
that just ruins everything right there, because now I'm gonna be asking the same question that she could be, you
Yeah.
know? And
That's
we're
right.
not
That's
allowed
why-
to talk about
They
it.
all
And
do.
that's why I
Chair's
collate
role
them.
to
Yeah.
Yeah,
consolidate.
That's exactly why I go through the trouble of collating them.
yeah,
is-
and if it's an electronic version, you can just sit there and, take a chunk right out and go, okay, kinda like a Pareto chart, the whole thing. You go,
Yeah.
okay, this question's asked 3 different versions, and knock it out, and it's all gonna be in a category in a group already categorized for you.
And the thing is that I'm sorry, I missed your hand. On our, we have a Q&A form that Cheryl developed a few years ago, which has, you put down the page and the line item and stuff like that. And so,
Okay.
so it's easy to kind of match it up.
Got it.
Major and minor codes, or I don't know what they're
Yeah,
called.
there, various codes, and you just, as you fill in those blanks and the amount that you're questioning, and then you write down your question about it, and then I just kind of put it together. If there are 2 on the same line item, then I just put them together to make
Got
it
it.
easier for the superintendent to deal with.
So you're the only one that can operate a spreadsheet? I'm not saying that in a facetious way, I'm just saying because of the Right to Know Act.
We have to be very.
You're the only one that can facilitate a spreadsheet.
No,
Actually,
Oh, not at all.
she can't
She can't do it
manipulate
either.
the
She just
spreadsheet
No.
puts them
either.
all together.
No,
I just collate it.
Okay.
But they're going like, oh.
I just collate it, and,
Yeah.
and then I share it with everybody,
Oh, I'm sure, but
you know,
yeah,
you
yeah.
just can't
Yep.
respond to it, not,
right.
You can read
Online.
it, but you can't say a word.
Okay,
Interesting, isn't it?
that's fun.
We actually, at one point, tried doing that just with the
we did,
minutes.
yeah,
And however,
no.
the minute you start, you post questions or comments or what have you, and I post, it's now a 2-person meeting
Yep.
that has not been posted, is not open to the public, is not being minuted. I mean, there's a whole aspect of the right to know that's being contravened.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry.
I just said, okay,
Okay.
I'm good with that now.
So right now, what I'm putting in here is I'm putting in Wednesday, the 13th of November, questions in for collation and submission on all departments but the schools. Would that also include special ed? Are you okay with doing special ed at that point? Special ed is going to be something that's going to be kind of, or do you want to include special ed when we do the schools? Yes, Cheryl?
I'm thinking that we maybe should talk to the administration before we make that decision, because when the reconfiguration of the schools might not be in the individual school budgets. It might be in facilities
Right.
or.
Finance
It, yeah, it might be. So I think
It's gonna be
if
in
we just say we're
transportation.
gonna reserve those 2 dates for portions and
Be spread
maybe
all
see
over
what
the
the
place.
administration feels would be sort of an equitable.
Okay, so that decision to be made probably in October, maybe not until November 6th.
If you schedule the
Not gonna
2
have
dates and then parse out the work.
Yes, right.
Once we know what it's gonna
Yes,
entail and how
exactly.
it's gonna be subdivided, it would make
Okay.
it easier.
So I'm going to say on a portion of the budget, I would like to say the least controversial portion of the budget.
Low hanging fruit, yeah, the stuff. There's nothing really
A little warm up.
substantial about it, It's-
And then Wednesday, November 20th.
Would also be a good day to get the first lot of feedback from administration.
That's not going to happen. I can tell you it's not going to happen. I've been told, they need the time to go in and to look and to see what those answers are and stuff like that. So what they've asked for is for 2 weeks. So the first lot of feedback would come back on the 27th,
Okay.
And the second lot of feedback would come in on the 4th. Okay? I mean, it'd be nice, but we can't manage their time. They really do try to do it in a good, transparent way, I think. Might not be ideal.
If I may, leave the 20th in there as a date for responses so that if they do have stuff done, rather than saving, and quite honestly, you can have 35, 40 questions, you get dumped, here are the questions, here are the answers, all at once. I'd rather get them as the answers come in, because that gives me time to digest it. Okay, is that the answer? Have they answered the question I asked? Or do I need to rephrase my question?
Okay, so based on that, I'm saying the rest of the budget on the 20th, first series of responses, if possible, the 27th, responses to the Budget Committee from the administration on the rest of the responses from the 13th. Any possible from the 20th. And then on the 4th, responses from the administration. Okay, all the responses? Okay, and then on the 5th, we'll have a meeting with them to go over all of those and make sure that we're clear on all the Q&A. Okay? Then on the 12th, we'd be working together to try and come up with our budget proposal. The 19th would be reserved for a joint session with the school board if our proposal is different from what they wanted. And then on the 19th, the school board would set the default budget that they're coming up with. And we would have a meeting and determine where we were on our vote for, a budget. Or we can plan to meet on the 26th, but, it'd be nice if on the 19th we came up with our budget to see, because then we're going to have to come up with putting together the public hearing. I can put down a date of the 26th. Does anybody know for sure that they're going to be away and not available on the 26th?
Oh, December?
Yeah.
Remember?
I'm going to be with my
Yeah.
children, I'm sure.
It's vacation week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good time.
So that's why the
An
19th
option.
would be a good time after the joint school board meeting. I think by then we will have known, we will have figured out if there's any negotiation, and we can have a vote on what our budget is. Please understand that at that point, it's not the final budget,
Right.
okay? Then, over the Christmas period of time, I'll put together an initial presentation for the deliberative session. If anybody wants to work on that with me, I'm happy to have that collaboration.
For the public hearing.
What?
For the
For the
public.
public hearing, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, for the public hearing, thank you. And then on January 2nd, we'll meet to go over that presentation and any supporting documents that we want to have at the public hearing and determine what changes we want to make or how we want to have that final public hearing presentation. Then the public hearing is on the 9th of January. On the 16th, we would meet to finalize our budget and vote on warrant articles. And then the proposed budget goes to the school board. That's, just part of the law. And then then we would have a meeting on the 23rd to shape the deliberative presentation, final form. On the 30th, if needed, and then do the deliberative presentation. And once again, that budget is still a proposed budget. It's our proposal to the voters. It's still not a final budget. The budget is finalized in the deliberative session by the voters present. Okay? Is this okay? Are we good with this now? Everybody? Anything else, Cheryl? No? Okay, great. Good suggestions. Okay. Okay, we kind of did the procedures for the Q&A on the current and past operations. We kind of talked about that. Does anybody have anything further? Yeah.
I would like to add a request, and I don't know if you can put it in the pipeline. The one area, broad area, that I've always had difficulty reconciling is athletics. The department head does not follow the same protocol as the other department heads. The data is not broken down as it is for other departments. And you can't tie the numbers back to anything.
No, you can't.
So I would like, as a courtesy, to ask our superintendent to ensure that all of his department heads are following the same kind of budget requests that they make to their boss, so that the numbers can filter down the same and we can compare apples to apples and we can ask the same questions of one department that we ask of another. I think it's only fair, I think it's equitable, and it will, again, add some transparency that has been lacking for a very long time.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Observation here. This printout that you handed out earlier, it says the Budget Committee fiscal year 2020 to 2021 budget calendar.
Right.
I'm looking at the calendar for 2021, and where are we? January 2nd is a Saturday from the calendar I'm
No,
looking at.
okay. This is for preparation of the fiscal year 2021 calendar,
You're gonna be working
budget. It's not the calendar, it's not the year 2021. It's the year 1920,
The fiscal year.
the fiscal year, but the fiscal year that we're preparing the budget for is
Oh.
2021.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
That
Yeah.
can be very confusing, and
Yeah,
sometimes you'll see it.
I think I had it figured out the other day, and then when we were just sitting here talking about it, I just confused myself.
I know, it's just like, what are we doing?
Wait a minute, yeah,
May I
okay.
ask
So
a
now they're
question?
falling on Thursdays.
Mary, would you give me that? I want to take this back to the board. I think that's important.
I think
Athletics, yeah.
if anyone else wants to articulate it any differently than I have, please do.
Right now, I have, this
Jump
is
in.
what
Can I throw a comment?
all department reports on the same process.
Well, it's the
'Cause I know
same
that
breakdown.
that's-
We
that's-
get lump sums that are not explained.
Right.
And it's a commingling of a bunch of different cost drivers that we have no way to reconcile.
That's right.
Where if you look at, facilities or special education, they break it down to the box of tissues in the,
Right.
in the,
And athletics is the only place that we've ever seen a line item to be determined where the money was going to be spent.
Yeah, that was this year, this past
Yeah,
year.
that is completely unacceptable.
Sure.
let's just say there's an opportunity there.
Yeah,
Let's spin it, there's an opportunity there for a little more clarity and maybe a little bit, better understanding and confidence in what it is that we're,
Need more details
Approving.
from, okay.
more specific line item detail is the way that I would like to see it.
One of the areas I'd really like to see is some of the individual sports broken
Yes.
down better.
Yes.
And the athletic, and the transportation that goes with them and
The
and that kind
hard
of
thing is that there's a lot of overarching
Yes, there is.
variables. Transportation touches, every school and every sport, whether it's a varsity or a JV or a freshman team or an A or a B team, at the middle school. So there's a lot of stuff that touches on a lot of different areas. But in order for that department head to put together that budget request to her superior, there needs to be an understanding of those. So it exists somewhere, it's just not available to us, is my frustration.
Not articulated.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
even,
Definitely
even
not
when
transparent.
last year, when we asked
Right.
in those meetings for further detail, I was not satisfied.
I think that's great. Thanks, Larry. Thank you, Mary. It is definitely an area that, now, by the way, that to be determined part was taken out of the superintendent's recommendation to us. So, it wasn't forwarded to us. It was just kind of there as something that had been wanted, but it wasn't forwarded to us. It was already cut out of the budget before we ever got it.
It's really hard to identify what expenses are with which sport. And I understand there's an overlap on something like transportation, but it is very difficult to understand exactly how much each one of these areas are costing the taxpayers, which is our duty to understand. And it's never been very clear, and it doesn't seem like the answers we receive are clear either.
I think you're right, Mary, that it is known, because I
Shell
know when
game.
I asked the superintendent at one point, how much does football actually cost?
Right.
He said about 50,000. So he knows, but we weren't told, we don't see
Right.
that, we don't see that
We don't
breakdown.
get the same drill down as other departments provide. And I know it exists because they can't justify asking for these things and, spin off a number without having some perception of what constitute those cost drivers.
That's a good one, thank you.
And it is a very large portion of the budget.
Yes.
It is.
Now, there's one thing that we're going to be getting as far as past and current operations is, we're going to be getting the budget proposal soon, the planned budget that starts on July 1st. It hasn't been finalized yet by the budget committee, but that will be uploaded to our team drive so that we can take a look at it. We also get the audited results of the year end. We get kind of a year end estimate, but they're unaudited until September sometime. So that's when we kind of get the final actual results from the prior budget versus actual, and then we get the new budget. So we kind of have it set up in columns so that we can make comparisons. And then when the new budget request is made, the superintendent then adds, and the business administrator add on to that. So we have, a couple of years of comparison of budget actual. Yeah.
I would like to ask, and I think we have in the past gotten, because the budget did not pass, so there had to be some reductions made, I would assume, if the administration could say where they made those reductions.
Good point.
Yeah.
I
Can you
know
note
right
that
now
one?
that they're in the process of doing that, so
Right.
I can't see any reason why we can't get that.
Yeah, so if you'd make that one clear too, Larry, that'd be great. Thank you. Is there anything else? Okay, we have a request for subcommittee for guidelines review. A couple of years ago, a number of years ago, we had these things called bylaws, which basically were like 7 different things that were like basically the golden rule.
Well,
Then-
no, actually, the bylaws were theoretically carved in granite or carved in basalt. The only thing missing was punitive action should you mistakenly stumble and break one of them. They were hard and fast. Some of them actually started out with "thou shalt."
So what we did was we got rid of the bylaws, and instead Cheryl and Mary worked very hard on our guidelines. And we came up with, 2-3 pages of guidelines that are ways that we operate, and basically kind of our own little policy book. And it's been a couple of years, so Cheryl suggested that we do a review of that. So would you be willing to serve on that again, Cheryl?
Sure.
Would somebody like to help her? Jim? Okay, anybody else?
Get in. I'll get in.
You'll do it? Okay, great. Okay. So Jim and Cheryl will be doing the guidelines. That's great. Thank you. So based on this, our next scheduled meeting date would be October 10th. Have a nice summer.
Jim
we do
asked
nothing
that
till
we have a
Well, no, you
discussion
do.
regarding the
Right to know.
right to know.
Yeah.
Pardon me? Oh,
Yeah.
yes, the right to know. Okay. Yep.
So a lot of it got answered right there when I brought up the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So if we needed to put in our comments, so it's, kind of collected together in one spot, and we're having meetings all of a sudden.
Yes.
So when an email goes out, anybody puts an email, this is information that I found. We can't reply to it because then it's going to be, it could be considered a meeting.
It will be considered a meeting.
What if there's a statement that just outright says this is a bit of information that is being passed back? without any deliberation
No,
considered for it.
no, I can answer that for you real quick.
Can't do it?
Anytime you answer back, you are essentially in a meeting. And essentially what they say is, as long, correct me on this, Jim, because I get sidetracked on some of this. As long as you send out information only with no answer back, you're okay. The
Okay,
first time somebody clicks return, it is now a meeting. And that's the way the New Hampshire School Board group interprets it. The
Okay.
Municipal Association is pretty close to that too.
Yeah, I've done both right to know. I've done like 12 of them so far.
Yeah.
There are slight differences between the interpretations. I go with the stricter.
Municipal Association.
Yeah, the municipal association is much stricter in their interpretation because if you're stricter, you're less likely
You get,
to get in trouble. Because what can happen, and it happened here at Sanborn, is the school board failed to meet the right to know. 2 school board members went to court, and the entire process, everything that the school board had worked on for that process was negated.
really?
Yeah.
Just pending the investigation or as a result of what went down?
As a result of failing to follow the right to know process.
So
So-
can we not send emails to each other?
You
I'm
can send
confused.
emails to anybody you want, but certain things you need to do. The only person you email is yourself. Anybody else that you are sending to goes on BCC, so that nobody has the ability to hit reply.
Reply all.
Because the minute, well, actually, no, technically, the
just
minute,
reply.
yeah, if you want to send me an email that, a little kitten, be my guest. But if it's a little kitten and underneath it says, our new school janitor, no, because there you're talking about school business. You and I can talk all we want. The 3 of us can talk all we want. As just a casual, we're standing in Demula's in the, tea aisle. However, the minute you say, I've got this information and I want to share it with the entire board, here it is. The minute somebody just hits reply to say, gee, thank you, that was interesting information. So when you're talking about official, and that's one of the reasons that you have those tablets in front of you.
That's just what I was going to tell them, Jim.
Do not download school district email on your personal devices. Because if anything ever went to court, all of your personal device, I make a public statement, and actually I should have made it earlier this evening, but there's no member comment. I only look at school board stuff on my school board computer.
That's right.
So I shouldn't have these forwarded to my personal email?
No,
Don't.
no. Very smart. If you, for some reason, you should go to court
Yeah.
and they suspect that your home computer has information for the school, it will be confiscated.
Okay.
There has been cases on record where they come in and took everything. So that's why the school has given us these Chromebooks. You do the school business on the Chromebook, leave everything else alone.
So recommendations for reading emails on your smartphone? Yes, no, don't even do it? Don't even,
I don't even bring it up.
I only look at official emails on official equipment. I have a school board laptop.
Yep.
A school district laptop. I have a selectman laptop. I do not look at school stuff on the selectman laptop. I do not look at, because you may have stuff that is confidential.
Sure.
On either. Never the twain shall meet. They don't even get plugged in together. But you need to learn to do that, because otherwise, I mean, at my shop, I have a computer, and I've gotten calls, why haven't you looked at this from the selectmen? Or, Andy called and said, did you look at the emails? And I said, I'm at my computer. I could not afford to have, it's a proprietary machine. I can't afford to have somebody come in and go, yeah, here's a subpoena. We're taking your machine. You may get it back.
Right. I've got the same situation.
Yeah, so.
I haven't been doing any school business on my
Right.
personal stuff.
So
But
that's the reason that what you get in the habit when you're doing budget committee stuff. If you see something, and actually I did it last year. There was Margaret Barnes, who is now she's the director of the New Hampshire Municipal Association, wrote a wonderful article on the default budget. And I sent it to everybody. Well, technically if you look at the email, I sent it to me. Can't find out who else I sent it to, because that's all BCC. And I sent it out to everybody. Next meeting, people went, oh, I like that article. But nobody could email me back.
So that's just, caution, 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 right?
That's true.
Yes, Cheryl.
I'd like to add a couple of things to the agenda before we adjourn, public comment and committee comment.
That would be good. And by the way, anytime there's an agenda that's out, people please contribute to the agendas, and please understand that when we first get together, you can amend the agendas. We try to stick to what's on there, because as far as noticing, but we can change the order of things or things like that. But pretty much we have an obligation to notify the public of what we're meeting about so that they can come and talk about what we're meeting about. Does anybody have a public comment?
There's no microphone, so I can just
Oh.
talk. I think somebody mentioned a chart.
Please say your name and
Jim
town.
Baker Newton. Somebody mentioned a chart that you have in your on your drive or somewhere available to you that has what triggers a right to know violation and what doesn't. And my understanding of it is it usually comes down to whether a decision has been made. So just follow the arrows, and that'll give you a guide as to whether you're crossing the line or not. Thank you.
Any other?
Thank you.
Yes? Just speak loud.
All right, give her your microphone.
Congratulations, everyone.
Name, please.
Thank you, Pam.
Good, Pam.
On BudCom, Pam Brown, Newton. Just want to remind you that we've got a lot of proposals coming up in the coming year for changes, and it's really helpful to go to some of the subcommittee meetings with the school board because the administrators spend a lot of time preparing presentations for the board, and you learn a lot in these subcommittee meetings. So I'm talking about facilities, finance, and the EISA Excellence and Student Achievement Committees. Really interesting meetings. Policy, not so much. I don't think you need to go to those, but the others are really helpful. They're usually Wednesday evening, early evenings on Wednesdays. So think about that. Thanks again.
Thank you. That was Pam Brown Newton. Did she say that?
Yes, she
Maybe
did.
she did. Okay, good.
Hello, Tammy Mahoney from Kingston. So I just want to let anybody know that's following this that the Bruins are down a goal to the Maple Leafs, 2-1 Toronto. So boo. And I thank you all for serving, and we look forward to a productive year of collaboration. Thanks a lot.
Any committee comments? Yes, sir.
My annual announcement, I want to say this yourself. I only view school district information on my school district issued laptop. Nobody please ever send that stuff to any of my other accounts, because it will simply be deleted as soon as I see the heading, it gets deleted, because there may be people in the school district or in the town who would like to trip you up and, get you working into. Always best to be safe, better to be safe than sorry.
Mary?
I would like to add that the town of Newton last year had a really good presentation, Right to Know workshop, sponsored by the Municipal Association, and we had to pay $10 a piece out of our pocket because we didn't have the budget for it. Well worth, if the opportunity comes up again, either through the town of Newton or the town of Kingston.
I believe Plastow is hosting one this year.
Has it already happened or has
No.
registry? If the opportunity comes up, even as a refresher, because it can get so convoluted and quirky,
I apologize, it was Tuesday night.
it happened already.
Yeah. However, if another one comes up, I will let.
Please, just
Yeah.
email everybody
Yeah.
in a BCC.
Very productive.
Just don't respond.
Very productive workshop.
As,
Yes,
let me
Larry.
add something to that. Last year, it took us, 6 months, 7 months to finally get figured out that, yes, the money is available for these committees for you guys to go to. And if you do, let the superintendent know and he will get it taken care of for you right then. It took us, that happened in October or something like that? And we didn't get the answer until the following May or June.
Yeah.
So,
The wheels of government turn very slowly.
Cheryl?
Yes, I would like to thank our former committee members, Charlton Swayze and Jack Kozak, for serving. They each had 3-year terms. Did Jack?
Yep.
Do more than 3?
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate anyone who serves on these committees and wish them well. And Sandy, thank you as well. Sounds like you have exciting things to look forward to. And I would like to ask, I see that our next meeting is not until October 10th, if we will be going through the process of finding a replacement for Sandy prior to that meeting. It would be nice to have a person in place before that meeting, so.
Okay, so the procedure has been that the people who represent Kingston select the person from Kingston. So there'll be.
Resigned yet.
Pardon me?
That
No,
I have not resigned yet.
no. And I was going to say that time has not come yet. However, when the time does come, that Sandy submits a resignation, and we all know that things can change, and maybe she'll even stay with us. But should that happen, then the Kingston representatives, and in our case, we have had Mary, who represents both towns, Maura and Cheryl as Kingston, representing Kingston, would, not Larry, because he's school board. He doesn't represent a town here. He represents the school board. So those three we would ask the school board to advertise the availability, certainly have individuals seek to drum up interest, with people who might be interested, because you never know. And then you would go through the process that you go through in the past. You've interviewed, called people in for interviews, and made a selection. And those are done in public. It's, subject to right to know. So the interviews are done in public. Anybody can go to them. The public can, and so forth. So thank you, Cheryl, for bringing that up, and for the thanks. And we're going to miss you, Sandy, but you're not gone yet. So.
not yet.
I have one more thing.
Oh, yes.
In regards to the guidelines subcommittee, I was chair last time. We just said 3 of us would do it. I don't know if one of us wants to be chair.
It's all yours. No, I have to admit, I am not the world's fastest typist. I've actually watched you capable of keeping up with it. Normally, the subcommittees choose their own chairs.
Yeah.
So you three would determine who's going to be the chair, and
Yeah.
Cheryl's willing to do it, and I think that's wonderful, and we'll see.
We can get together after we adjourn and
That's
go.
what I was going to say.
Yeah.
If you would like me to be chair, I would, and that I would contact both of you, and because it is a subcommittee, just like the committee meetings would have to be posted, it would have to be in a public place, so.
And brief minutes.
And minutes would need to be taken. So I would like to have that for our October 10th meeting, or prior to that, have a draft, come up with a draft through the subcommittee, submit it to the committee that we could possibly review at the October 10th meeting, if there's time. My meeting with the business administrator might take up a lot, but.
Well, I
That would be
think
my-
we can make time. I think it's good. And if
would
you
be my hope
and if
to
you guys
do
will
that.
get it out to the rest of us so that we can
Yes.
take a look at it, then that would help it to be efficient. So, Maura, one thing you said is, so we don't really do anything between now and October, but we do.
Okay.
We're going to be getting the existing budget, that will be the budget that'll be in place as of July 1st. That will be coming soon for review. Obviously, you can get the book and access to the team drive and look at all the past history, formulate questions if you have any. And, be sure and look at the old Q&As and stuff and see if there are any. And then there will also be the audited results of, as of the year ending June 30th, that we'll be getting prior to our next meeting.
Okay.
So there is quite a bit of, kind of background work to do to get ready for the new budget season. The
How
other
often
thing
should
that's,
I be checking this email?
there won't,
Especially this time of year. Not
often.
once a week do I look at it, or what?
We're very cyclical.
Yeah.
So we're in a lull and we'll continue to be in
Yeah.
a lull, probably until school recesses,
yeah.
Okay.
which is, our fiscal calendar is from July 1st to June 30th.
I would estimate that we'll probably, by about mid-June, probably get the June 30th, or the July 1st proposed budget, or, budget that we'll be operating under for the year. So check towards the end of June, just to see. And then,
Check my email, so I don't need to check my email before.
no, and then you won't be getting really any email except from the guidelines subcommittee.
Okay, you'll be sending.
And that would probably start looking in September or so, maybe October, early October. And then the results of the audit will be in September. And that's pretty much,
If the school board does anything with the unexpended fund balance and spends anything, that we normally get that list. And not that I want to have to say it, but if we receive a letter of resignation, that would require an emergency meeting, because we would have to vote to accept prior to anybody being able to,
okay,
you know,
good point.
that's the
Good
legal
point.
process.
Okay. So that's coming sometime in July.
Possibly. Unless we can talk
Possibly.
her out of it.
Okay. Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.